It hits people at their most vulnerable and emotional. Good Morning Britain has been told that funeral organisers are warning grieving families about funeral live stream scams.
This is going to make you so cross, you know, when you hear about this. These swindles are becoming increasingly more common. And the scam is that they create fake social media profiles to look like they've been made by family members. The fraudsters then trawl community groups and send mass friend requests to the loved ones of the deceased.
The fraudsters then give a link to a fake live stream page where people are told they can watch the funeral online. They're then told to enter their bank card details, demanding money to watch what turns out to be a non-existent live stream. And we can speak to humanist celebrant Halde Pottinger, who was targeted by fraudsters himself before his brother's funeral, now warns others about these scams.
Alongside Catherine Hart from the Chartered Trading Standards Institute, who's encouraging people to report when this scam happens to them. Halde, let's come to you first of all, because you're the person that's absolutely at the raw end of this, and you're worried that there are many others as well, aren't you? How did they get you?
Well, obviously when somebody passes away, sadly, announcements are put up, and the traditional way would be announcements would be put in the newspaper and such things. But now, with the advent of social media and since COVID time, when live streaming is a norm and a positive norm, then getting details or gathering details about people who've passed away is very simple. I mean, even currently in Ireland, I suppose you can go, there's a record of every single death that goes in. So to find these details is very easy. And these people, they're going onto the information that's there, and it's incredible. They're targeting people at their most vulnerable. They're targeting people when they're at their lowest. They're targeting people when they're not thinking right, or they've got so much other things going on. And yeah, it's. I know it's been reported at the moment, which is great, but this has been going on for 2 years now, and it's getting worse.
So it was your brother, wasn't it, that had sadly passed away, and you were obviously dealing with the grief of that loss. And for those that perhaps are mercifully, you could say, unaware of what happens, as you say, after COVID, a lot of people, perhaps for reasons that they can't get to the funeral, became familiar with the idea that they could be part and share the celebration of the person's life and contribute to that moment by watching it online. And so they actively go and look for people who've lost someone dear and pretend to be a member of the family or a friend offering this service.
They'll do more than that as well, Kate. They will actually pretend to be the funeral director.
Gosh.
They will pretend to be the deceased's partner. They will pretend to be the deceased's son, daughter, closest family member. And they will look to target people on the morning of the funeral, because 4 or 5 days beforehand, if you get a request through for the funeral coming up, you might go, oh, let's have a closer look at this. Oh, I'm not too sure about this. Or you might even contact the family and just say, oh, by the way, I've got the link now. I'll be tuning in a few days' time. And they're like, well, what link? But because they're targeting right in the morning of, in some respects, 2 hours before the funeral, you don't want to be contacting the family on the day of that person's funeral because they've got too much on. And I think how they're getting away with it as well is, it is such an incredibly horrible, horrible thing. So people see a link and good people are thinking, nah, surely not. That can't be fake. That can't be a scam, because that's just awful. And so they'll click away and go, oh yeah, that has to be true. Nobody in there, nobody would do something like that.
And Halde, how did you find out this had happened to you? When did you discover it?
As I say, it's sadly been going on for a couple of years. So every funeral that I now do, I do funerals all over the place. Every funeral I do, there'll be scam accounts. But the very morning when I was there at my brother's funeral, I checked my phone to maybe message a family member to say, yep, we're ready to go, or something along those lines. And 5 friend requests came through about half an hour before the funeral was due to begin. Gosh. 5 friend requests from bogus scam accounts saying, tune into this link, click this link to the charity, click this link to see the live streaming, click this link to fill in all your details.
Halde, that is such a terrible thing for you to have to go through on the day of a funeral. Absolutely shocking. Catherine Hart, the lead officer at the Chartered Trading Standards Institute. I mean, is this something which is rare, or is this something which you are seeing a lot of evidence that it's happening widely?
As Halde said, I think certainly since COVID, the idea that you can actually see a funeral without travelling, be part of that day, is actually common, but unfortunately the criminals exploit that. So any opportunity for a criminal to exploit anything, they don't care, they have no morals, they will exploit and try and...
What sort of money is being charged for this, and what do they then do with presumably the details they've got?
So quite often it'll be quite a small amount of money. So it could be anything. It could be anything from sort of £5, £15.
Something that's believable, I guess.
Something that's believable, exactly. So what people then do is obviously pay that money, but what they're not realising is that they're passing on personal details, their credit card number. So there's then potential for secondary scamming further down the line. But we've also got to remember at this particular point, people aren't really thinking about it, that, you know, and they're not wanting to report it because they don't want to cause additional grief to the families, and perhaps that they themselves are grieving. So it's a very, very difficult situation.
And that question about believability is like really kind of, you know, important. The government's phrase is stop, think, fraud.
Yes.
If you stop and think for a minute, can you actually imagine the family deciding to charge £5, £10 or £15 to see the live stream of the funeral? Once you think about it, actually, it's quite a shocking
they also
thing.
pretend to be... That's the other way they do it, isn't it? They say we'd like money donated. For instance, people often say, can I donate back to charity rather than pay for flowers or something? And they do it via that. So that makes it even more complicated,
So we see both of those sort of things happening as well. So they might just, not just a link to the funeral, but a fake link to a Just Giving type page as well.
How can I find out, as an ordinary citizen, if I get this request about a funeral which, you know, I'd like to go to, but I can't that day, and I think, well, actually, you know, I want to support them, how do I know that it's not a scam?
The best advice is actually go and speak to the actual funeral directors, contact them directly, or the people organising. It's best that way.
Because contacting the family is quite hard on the day of a funeral the day before.
But also for yourself, if you're going to be part of that funeral, you're going to be sort of feeling that rawness as well.
Of course.
So if you can potentially go and go and speak to the celebrant themselves. But for us, I think the most important thing is to remember to report it, because it's not always just about that small amount of money. It's about the potential of the frauds occurring.
And you might be a bit embarrassed that you fell for it, but actually reporting it is the thing which stops it happening to the next person.
Well, the most important thing is, you know, we should be talking about it. You should never feel embarrassed about being a victim of this sort of scam, because that's what they do for a living. No morals, despicable.
Just to say that, and this pertains to the point about reporting, it's spokesperson for Meta, which owns Facebook, says they don't allow fraudulent activity on other platforms, remove the content as soon as they become aware of it. So that's important, why it's important to report it, isn't it? Halde, just very quickly back to you. Are you even more aware? Oh, you're shaking your head. What were you thinking there?
Sorry, Kate. No, I'm not shaking my head at you. Facebook, Meta, they don't do anything. This has been going on for 2 years. 2 years, every single funeral that I do, and I'm not exaggerating, every single funeral I do, 2, 3, 4, 5 accounts, all in that person's name, wanting money, sending you to bogus links. It's reported. I reported my brother's one, 6, 7, 8, 9 of us all reported those accounts. Those accounts remained live 3, 4 months afterwards.
Well, they're hearing the message loud and clear from you, and you're also giving a super helpful message to anybody to be warned. So thank you very much to both of you.
Thank you.
And if you have been affected by any of the issues we've been talking about, you can find advice and support at itv.com/helplines.